Hi there, welcome back to On Closer Inspection, our weekly current affairs show here on Made in Leeds. Now tonight we're talking about refugees and the Leeds response to the Syrian refugee crisis. Just before the break we started talking about the 200 refugees that Leeds will home, and in part 4 of the show we're going to be finding out exactly what it's like to be a refugee in Leeds. But is that 200 number too many refugees or not enough? Well, let's look back now at what the council itself has to say. I've been down to speak to Councillor Deborah Cooper, who's responsible for communities in the city. Councillor Deborah Cooper, you're the person responsible here at the council for communities. We're going to have 200 Syrian refugees coming to live in Leeds. Tell us about that decision.
Okay, so here in Leeds we made the decision that we would offer the government our assistance as a local authority to help resettle up to 200 Syrian refugees over the next 5 years. So we were in negotiation with the Home Office as to how we might be able to achieve that through their scheme. Obviously it's the Home Office that actually decide how many refugees come to the country. And
20,000 the government have said, haven't they?
The government have said that they would like a limit of 20,000 refugees in the country, and they also are negotiating with local authorities throughout the country as to where they may be able to offer some resettlement to the refugees. And Leeds is one of them, and we've said we can take up to 200 over the next 5 years.
Because of course Leeds is a city of sanctuary.
Absolutely.
You've signed up to that.
Absolutely. We have a proud tradition of welcoming refugees to the city, and quite frankly the city wouldn't be what it is today unless we'd have done that over the many years in our history. So
some families have come already, haven't they?
We've already received 25 Syrian refugees in the city, and that's a number of families that arrived last month.
So the people who are coming to Leeds, they're not coming from Calais, are they?
No, they've not come from within Europe. They've come from the camps just outside Syria, so that they've been in absolute desperate need of safety, security and assistance. These were particular vulnerable families who may have had some special needs, such as disabled children with or particular vulnerabilities that we were able to assist here in Leeds.
Who pays for that then?
The Home Office fund the scheme fully, so they pay for all the accommodation, all the support needs, all the travel, everything that the refugees may require. While
but you have given 100
grand,
grand, haven't you, to some charities?
We allocated amount out of the budget of £100,000. We have a welfare scheme, a discretionary welfare scheme in the city, and we allocated £100,000 of that towards this. None of that has needed to be spent so far, particularly around the wonderful charitable donations that have happened within the city. So we haven't had a need yet to spend that discretionary over and above what the Home Office are paying for the refugee.
So the government has said 20,000 Syrian refugees are going to come to the UK. Leeds, of course, is the 3rd largest city in the country, and we're going to take 200. Is that really enough?
Well, if you bear in mind that the government have said 20,000, and that's over 10 years. They've said 20,000 over 10 years. So we've said that we can take up to 200 over the next 5 years. But in actual fact, we've already got 25.
But Leeds is a city of sanctuary. Do you not find that a bit frustrating that we're only able to take 200?
I don't feel frustrated, because I feel that actually we're going over and above what a lot of other authorities are actually doing. We're also involved in other refugee schemes, such as the Afghan refugee scheme as well, and we're resettling refugees from Afghanistan too. We also have other asylum seekers who are not coming through the refugee route that are settled in the city as well, and we just want to make sure that we've got the resources to be able to deal properly with all those people.
And that was Councillor Cooper there from Leeds City Council. So, John, Councillor Cooper was talking there about the goodwill and support towards 200 Syrian refugees, but she also mentioned Afghan refugees, and we also have asylum seekers here in the UK. Do we have as much support, do you think, for other asylum seekers as for the Syrian refugees?
At the moment, there are about 620 asylum seekers living in Leeds, in addition to the other people we've been talking about today. I think that the support is there from the population. We've had a lot of people step forward to volunteer with our organisation and with many other organisations across the city, to the extent where we've had to close our books to new volunteers. Now, it's a strange...
And was that quite recent then?
Yeah, in the last couple of months.
Was that the Island Kurdi pictures as well?
Exactly. You can look at the front page of the newspaper, and then the same day we then started to get lots of interest, people phoning us up through our website, the media getting in contact with us as well, but a lot of people saying, we've got places, we've got a spare room in our house, how can we help?
Because that's one of the schemes you offer, isn't it, where you open up a room?
It's one of the things that we offer, as well as helping people to learn English, as well as helping them to make friends and find their way around the city. And lots of people have just said, how can we help? We can do whatever you want us to do. Where are we best placed? And so we've been trying to say, well, if you've got expertise in legal stuff, then there's places you can go to with that. If you've got a car that can help to ferry stuff around the city and get things to donation points, that's also really useful. But as well, going to schools, just around the corner from here, Bankside Primary, where they were talking about the importance of smiling at people and saying hello and being friendly and involving children and asking them to join in and to play. There's simple stuff that everybody can do, and this stuff doesn't cost money. It's about being friendly and putting out a traditional Yorkshire welcome to folk.
A traditional Yorkshire welcome. I mean, Councillor Cooper also mentioned there, Lorna, about the wonderful charitable donations. Do you think this whole thing has shown that actually we are very charitable, you know, showing humanity as a society?
Yeah, I think over the summer something shifted, and I think there was a kind of a human face to this tragedy that we're seeing, especially in the southern part of Europe and the Mediterranean. There was a human face given to it, and I think people are so often bombarded with statistics and facts like that they don't really know how to respond in a kind of human way, because they're not faced with a human story. So once we've got this...
So the picture of the little boy became the human story,
and there was just a different way of reporting, actually, and I think the media has a big role to play in how they report on refugee and asylum issues, because it does have a huge impact on the way people respond. I think with that, you have seen a huge upswell of support. I mean, you were talking about that, the images of the German train station and whether we'd ever see that in the UK. We had 100,000 people demonstrate in support of refugees in September. I never thought that would happen in the UK, but something shifted, and it has resulted in really creative ways of people helping. Like John said, people just saying, what can I do?
That's amazing that something as simple as saying smile at people, you know, that we might forget to do that.
Definitely.
It makes a difference that is so important. If you are faced with newspaper headlines or things on the news telling you that you're unwelcome or that migrants cause problems, then being at a bus stop, having someone smile at you and just be nice is a real sign that you are welcome.
At the same time, though, there is quite a lot of misconceptions about how many refugees and asylum seekers there are in the UK, isn't there? And also, over the last couple of weeks, since the Paris attacks, we have heard anecdotally that people have felt a real rise in hate crime as well, though. So is this a bit polarised, that on the one hand, some people are being very sympathetic, and then on the other hand as well, that there's not a good side to this? I
think that an awful lot of this is down to the way in which things are reported by the media, and I think that the people who respond positively to positive and sympathetic images on the telly are the same people sometimes who have their opinions changed when they see different kinds of reporting about different communities, and hate crime, it's a terrible thing, has been a feature of Leeds for quite some time, and people often look for reasons to perpetrate these crimes, and they will use whatever hook they can, be it international events, be it what happened.
At the same time, you can understand, though, can't you, Lorna, that a lot of people may have a lot of genuine sympathy for the refugees, but they are really worried about our current public services and are worried. We're going to be talking about housing coming up soon. People are worried about the pressures, aren't they?
I think this is our government's responsibility, actually, to tell the truth a bit about asylum and refugee and migration.
When you say the truth a bit, what do you mean?
Well, when you're talking about misconceptions about the numbers of asylum seekers and refugees, I think that is perpetuated by the way in which policy is written, the way in which media report it. And I think sometimes refugees and migrants alike are treated a bit like scapegoats for wider public issues. So for something like housing, yes, there's lots of empty housing in Leeds, but people often say that it's migrants that are causing a housing crisis. So I think sometimes we need to draw a kind of link between things that maybe aren't drawn between by the government and various types of media outlets. So I think it's about being honest with the public sometimes, and it is a complicated and it is a sensitive issue to talk about immigration and
But there
asylum.
are real pressures, aren't there?
There are real pressures.
That isn't a misconception, is it?
No,
That is
but
very,
I
very
don't think
real
it's
pressure.
not necessarily fair to blame that on a particular group of people. I think that's not healthy for community cohesion. It's not healthy for the future of the country. I think we need to be much more considered in the way that we approach that.
What else can we do, John?
Just to start saying, the pressures are caused by deliberate funding choices which are not made by local people, which are not made by migrants, they're made by government. Governments are responsible for how the public purse is used, and they make choices which make people's lives better or more difficult. I think, sorry, what was your question?
Yeah, I was going to say, what else can we do in Leeds? You were saying that be friendly, be smiley, give people a good Yorkshire welcome. What else can we do if people want to help?
I think that what we can do is we can remind our politicians and the people who do make decisions about how local resources are used that this is a good use of resources, that we're happy to have people here and that we support them, because that will help them to make braver decisions, potentially, to be able to take more people in and to be able to act in accordance with the huge numbers of people that we've seen stepping forward going, we think Leeds has got enough space, we think that Leeds has got enough resources to be able to make a welcome for people who are having tough times, and we can help to lead our politicians in the right direction.
Well, thank you very much for that. I think it's important at this point, though, to make sure that the government's point on refugee numbers is clear. In a statement, the Home Office told us the UK has a proud history of granting asylum to those who need our protection, and we are resettling 20,000 of the most vulnerable Syrian refugees over the course of this Parliament. Well, just a huge thanks to you both, John and to Lorna. And of course, to say in part 4, we're going to be hearing directly what it's like to be a refugee in Leeds. But meantime, after the break, it's National Empty Homes Week with over 5,500 empty homes in the city. We'll hear what one project is doing to make homes more available.